I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of council of the Village of Chase, held here, 826 Okanagan Avenue, will be Zoom today, December 10th, 2024 at 4:01. I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Councilor Coniff, second by Councilor Herman. All in favor? That's carried. And then do we need to note that Councilor Stevens isn't here? Jane's gonna take that. We have no public hearings. Public input. This is a public input on current agenda items part.
Oh, okay, then I'll get it to you.
Okay, we're at number 5, public input on current agenda items. Is there anybody in the gallery? There's nothing on the agenda to ask, but there's an opportunity at the end to ask. To speak on any municipal matter. Oh, yes,
Adoption of the minutes.
I did that.
Oh, sorry.
We both missed it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
It's Connor Herman.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought that was a bunch.
We had a few things going on.
Sorry.
We did the bad and the ugly. Threw us off.
We did do both of them?
We didn't, we did the agenda.
We did the agenda.
Okay, so I need a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Councilor Herman. Councilor Corbon, all in favor? That's carried.
We're all on Christmas holidays.
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
Let's did it.
Okay, no public hearings, public input on current agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the gallery to provide input on items on this agenda. And the only item on the agenda is TRD housing. But there's an opportunity at the end of the agenda to speak on municipal matters. So I'm thinking there's no questions to ask, I guess. Yeah, so we'll go right to number 6, delegations, 6.1 TNRD housing needs assessment. Village of Chase, and I'm going to turn it over to the CAO to introduce and.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So today we have Brendan Daw from Urbanics Consultants. Good afternoon, Brendan. Can you hear us?
Afternoon.
Oh, glad to have you with us and please take it away. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
Well, greetings, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. Very pleased to present this report to you all on the housing needs of the Village of Chase. So let me just share my screen and we'll get going. Okay, so yes, I am Brendan Daw, Vice President of Urbanics Consultants based in Vancouver. We were retained by the regional district as well as yourselves to help provide a full housing needs report that should cover the needs of the district for the next 5 years. So I'll just get into it. So the first thing that we'd like to discuss is the methodology. Now, the core of the housing needs assessment is the new methodology that was introduced by the province in June 2024. The methodology for counting housing needs is comparable from one end of British Columbia to the other, which does provide some advantages. It's based on 6 different components. Firstly, extreme core housing need. Extreme core housing need is the number of households in the community that are forced to spend more than half of their pre-tax income on housing costs. The second component is apportioned regional homelessness. So the homelessness count for the entire regional district divided by Chase's proportion of the population. The third piece is suppressed household formation. Now, this is an estimate that's supposed to capture the extent to which increased housing costs have reduced the ability of people to form their own households, which can create a somewhat deceptive relationship between population growth and the number of housing units needed. In this case, this has been anchored to the 2006 census to provide a guide. Projected population growth. This is BC Stats population growth based upon their people model. rental vacancy, an adjustment that's supposed to provide for the fact that you need to have somewhat more rental units on the market than there are people living in them to have a healthy rental market. And a demand factor, which the province has created for all municipalities, something of a black box, which I'll explain later. So drawing upon census data, data from the CMHC, data from BC Stats, data provided by the regional district, as well as partner municipalities, we've assembled this report. And a key thing that also included was our engagement with stakeholders and members of the community. When putting together this report, we spoke to a number of stakeholders. That includes local social service providers, local public officials, First Nations, realtors, developers, health industry professionals to provide their input on what they know about housing needs in the Thompson-Nicola. Additionally, we had a community survey online, the 523 responses, 6% of which came from residents of the village of Chase, about 31 responses. It should be noted that this is not intended to be a scientific sampling of the population, more of an opportunity for people to share what they know with us, things that we wouldn't know just from reading off some dusty census reports from Ottawa. So, the key thing that I would like to speak to are the limitations. This is the methodology that was provided by the province. It is not a market-based measurement. It isn't saying that yay many homes will be buildable to people in the village of Chase. What it's saying is that there is this sort of social demand based upon various factors for homes over the next 20 years. Secondly, a key component of the future projection is the population forecast provided by BC Stats. Now, the population forecast provided by BC Stats is primarily based on existing demographics. So the expected population as it ages, how many people you expect that sort of population to, fertility rates, mortality rates, with an adjustment for migration factor that's largely based on past practice. Now, in any sense that you may have seen running into the limits of planning and permitting, that can affect your future growth projections based upon how you planned in the past. So if you use growth projections to guide future planning, to some extent, you are baking past planning decisions into the future. Lastly, I'd like to speak to the demand factor. The demand factor is something of a black box provided by the province. You just look up a spreadsheet and they tell you what each municipality's demand factor is, which is a ratio that you multiply their housing needs adjustment by. It's been suggested to me that this may have something to do with the existing built density of communities, but the documentation on this factor is quite poor. And, you know, I've researched this extensively. I've talked to people in Victoria, people working for the province, and I have not gotten a good answer as to what it is, but it is a key component of the housing needs projection nonetheless. So looking at the population projection going forward based on BC Stats, the key thing that they project is that population growth is expected to be relatively subdued in the village of Chase. Most of the 20-year population projection growth would have already happened. With a population of 2041 of about 2,706. What is expected to be seen in that time is a modest increase in the number of senior households, a steady number of working age households, and a modest decline in the number of individuals under the age of 15, which is a very common demographic pattern that we find in BC communities. Perhaps even to a more subdued extent than we see elsewhere. So, looking forward, here is the main product that we'd like to share with you. This is the housing needs projection for the village. So as you can see, that is a projection of 536 units, pardon me, over 20 years. So that is 2021 to 2041. This is primarily driven by anticipated growth, by the increasing number of households that BC Stats foresees the village having over the coming 20 years. Now you might be wondering, is it with modest household growth modest population growth, how does that turn into household growth? And a large part of that is the tendency of household sizes to fall over time. It's expected that you will need more homes per person in the future than you need now, and much less than you needed in the past, which is an underrated driver of housing demand in many communities. So moving forward, I'd like to discuss some of the things that we did hear from residents. This includes, people concerned about red tape, concerned about housing gaps and shortfalls for seniors, for affordable housing, for the homeless. Some suggestions about how housing might be best fitted to the existing typology. And concerns just in general about the community, about families, about high costs and access. So to draw some high level conclusions, our recommendations for the village detailed in the report would be to expand non-market and supportive housing options, to expand the rental supply, and to address housing needs of various demographic cohorts, namely the increase in the number of senior residents, which does have some implications for the form and typology of housing in the future. So I would just like to say thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to hear from me, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Brendan, yes. Is there any Councillor Collin, do you have any questions? No? No, Councillor Orban? No. I'd like to thank you for the report, because it's good to have these things to give you benchmark on, some kind of guidelines on, where we might be heading. So that's about all I have. Is thanks for the report. And is there anything that staff wishes to comment on? Is there anything else that you think you need to let us know, Brendan, or you're good for now?
It's just thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Oh, the only one other thing I might have is, are you, like with other towns, are we sort of similar to other towns in the TNRD, or is this something I should ask?
That's a great question. So I think that the demographic trajectory in Chase is somewhat more stable than many communities I've looked at. There's certainly an increasing senior population, but it's not as dramatic as you see and same for the population of those under 15. In certain communities, it's projected that there's many fewer younger residents in the future, and so that is something worth taking away. Is that compared to many TNRD communities, Chase in 2041 is expected by the province to look demographically not that different than it does today.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that, I'm good now. Thank you very much, and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you. The CA, was there a printed out report in the agenda as well, or just for council?
It's gonna be available on our website,
Okay,
so, yeah, and we can definitely provide it in the US for it.
okay.
Yeah.
Does that help?
No, that, I got two questions, the one is already answered, and I'll ask the next one I may.
Oh, at the end, okay,
Oh, and Mr. Mayor, we're gonna get the slides as well from the presentation and put that on our website as well.
okay, thank you. Okay, so delegations are done. Reports. November 29th. I enjoyed the Chase Country Christmas Parade. It definitely shows you what Chase is made of. I helped with the parade. The floats are some of the best ever. Great community event, and thanks to all that put it together. November 30th. More Chase Country Christmas. I went did the pancake breakfast, the craft fair, and lunch at Chase Creekside. December 3rd, I attended the Chase Recreation Society meeting. December 4th and 5th, I met with most councillors for an annual review. And December 9th, I met with senior staff regarding various issues. Councillor Coniff.
November 26th council meeting, and then environmental meeting on the 2nd, and lots of, thank you for voting for that housing thing. from people on the street. That's about it.
Councilor Herman,
Okay, November, obviously November 26th, regular Village of Chase meeting, and November 29th to December 2nd. Also, I enjoyed most of the Chase Country Christmas activities. The parade was fantastic. Kudos to the Chase Country Christmas Committee for a fabulous parade and excellent coordination of all the other events. And I also attended the climate action meeting. And that's my report.
Councilor Corbon,
November 26th council meeting, again, took in the Chase Country Christmas, events. Reviewed agenda, review emails, and meet with staff as required, and we've taken inquiries from the public.
okay, thank you very much. And we do have some reports from staff. And I'll start with a couple and council can ask more if they wish. So for the CAO. I had a couple questions on your report. You said you participated in discussions for funding for the Art Golding Memorial Arena. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, to the rest of the council. So, all of us actually, Sean and our CFO and CO participated in most of the meetings as well. So we had, some funds in our consulting budget, so we've had 2 applications for funding submitted. One is for, the roof, I think. One is for some improvements to the roof and possibly some solar panels. It's like a green community building type of grant, and the other grant is basically an economic diversification grant. And so we're also looking for some more different improvements funding for some improvements to the area. So whether that be change rooms, or we also have to deal with the ice making equipment. So we've got some funding in the applications for that as well. They're aging, our equipment's aging out.
Thank you, and I have 2 more. Here you say you assisted CFO in interviews for a finance clerk position, and here you have some
That's
new
correct.
news to make public.
We have some good news. Our finance officer is gonna have some help.
Yay.
So we've engaged a lady, who currently works for the Rayleigh Water District, is that correct? We think she's gonna fit right in. She's really knowledgeable, has lots of experience. She's, seems to have a good work ethic. She wants to get along, do her job, and that's what we want. So she's gonna start with us on the 6th of January.
Awesome. And the last one is, you said you met with the TNRD staff regarding fire suppression.
Yeah, so there are, we met with Jason Tomlin and Jamie Vieira.
Who's we?
We, our fire chief and myself and our chief financial officer. Basically, it was to discuss the arrangements we have for fire suppression for BLA Flats and for Maddie's Hill area. So what they're trying to do is standardize all the agreements that are in place for providing those types of services to outside areas in the TNRD. So we do get funding from both the BLA Road area residents and from the Maddie residents in a different form. So basically the ones in BLA Flats pay when they pay for the service on their property taxes, which the TNRD remits to us. The other one is a different arrangement. So they're trying to standardize the arrangement. So we're just working through that process.
Okay, thank you very much. And through the CAO, to our manager of public works, I had one question. You have roads and drainage 2024 paving complete, monitoring performance of asphalt through maintenance period. Do you have anything to add to that?
Through the CAO, there are a couple areas within the paving project that we are monitoring. There were small pieces of asphalt that were on the tires of the trucks as they left the site. My understanding is that the snowplows are going to be peeling that off just through normal operational practices, but we will see how how that actually goes. We have been fortunate so far and actually haven't had any snow, so don't have any idea of that, but it's obviously quite imminent. We do hold a 10% 1-year maintenance holdback on all of these projects, so we are currently holding about $75,000 dollars. So during that 1-year maintenance period and conclusion of it, we will do a inspection and kind of see how it holds up. My own kind of personal experience on that road is that that it isn't bad, but we'll continue to watch that over the course of the next year. Some of the things that we need to kind of look at when we are looking at a project that is completed there is that there's kind of aesthetic objectives, and then there's operational or functional objectives, and to go in and start making actual cuts in your asphalt, it allows moisture to get down into your base materials, and it can actually have kind of more adverse implications than what is currently there, depending on what the issue is. So that's why we have the 1-year maintenance, and that's why we'll continue to look at it. And if there are functional operational issues that arise within this year, then we'll have to act on that, and the council will be made aware of it at that time.
Okay, those are all the questions I have. Councillor Conick, do you have any questions for?
I have one to hear, but that's fine. I don't do that.
Councillor Herman? Councillor Torban?
Yeah, I just have a question on the washboard effect on the portion from the east entrance down past the museum. So are you aware of that?
I'm aware of it verbally. I can't say that I've experienced it per se. There is one intersection that I am specifically monitoring. There was some mat slippage on the from the paving equipment. And that's right at Marjorie. And you can see that there's probably 5 or 6 little lines, and when it's wet, you can actually see a difference in the kind of almost like if you take suede and brush it one way and then kind of the other way, you can definitely see a transition there, and there's probably 5 of those kind of strips in that area. The remedy for that would most likely be cutting out kind of that intersection. So again, we're kind of monitoring it. So that's the only area that I would say that the contractor had actually used the word washboard or rumble strip, that it kind of was like that. I actually haven't noticed it to that degree, but that specific issue we are monitoring within the maintenance period.
Yeah, because I drove that stretch after I was made aware of, and definitely there is a washboard effect on that. Maybe from the east end to past the east end.
And if I may here, just would it be limited to that kind of one intersection, or were you suggesting that you kind of it felt washboard?
All the way down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, we'll continue to monitor.
Yeah.
Monitor that.
Okay.
But that wasn't from the slippage or anything like that.
No, that was just from the way they paved.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not a good paving choice for it. And the other question I had, where are we with the improvements to our sewage plant?
So on November the 18th, we received a email from the Ministry of Environment advising that the submission was being reviewed and currently in the screening process. Some additional information had been requested at that time and has been submitted, and I'm not expecting to hear anything more from them until the new year.
Anything else, Councillor Torban?
No.
Councillor Cobb?
Yeah, like Fred was saying, it's just not him saying, I've driven it and it's, you can feel it, and so is a lot of other people. That whole road down to where, to the the old church, the museum. It's definitely gonna.
Yeah, so on my end, it's interesting, because some people are feeling bumps, but when I drive in my car, I don't feel anything. So. Interesting. Any other questions? Need a motion to accept reports, Councillor Torvon, Councillor Audit, all in favor? That's carried. No unfinished business, no new business, notice of motion, any councillor? Notice of motion? So number 11, this is the opportunity for the public to speak on any municipal matter. Is there anyone here that would like to wish to speak, and just state your name and address, please?
I'm at Goyle for the 834 Thompson Avenue. I'm also, I was quite interested to learn about the housing need assessment, lots of discussion happened. At different council, Cambridge, nearby, some of those stuff, so. I was interested to learn what the regional district is doing and what's happening in Chase, where that's quite a bit. So it was good to see they applied some methodology to the process. They came with some hard numbers and some projections and based on the demographic data. And I already kind of asked that question about putting that information on the website, so it's kind of, that was my one question. Whether that's shareable with some of my clients who have significant investments in town. As well, so I think my follow-up question would have been in that sense. Does the village has some sort of a projections or have been taking an inventory of what's coming in the next couple of years or a year to come in terms of meeting those targets? I'm not sure if these targets are given to us by the province. I don't think so. Does Chase fall that in the category? Probably not. But they are real targets for the administration to look at, and they may be a little bit plus minus 10% variance on them. So do we have some sort of inventory in order to understand, okay, what will it take us to get to these numbers, for example, 206 units over the next 5 years, and obviously 536 is a 20-year goal, so you have more time to run faster later. But yeah, that's the thing, and also there's lots of talk and lots of discussion about the tax exemption for builders who build rental housing for 10-year period is pretty common in Cambridge there. So if those kind of discussions are already happening through your administration, because that does have some tax revenue implications. So more like a social enterprise taking over the corporate aspect of it, but and long term, you also benefit as a community in terms of how much more revenue generate and what's always spin off of having 206 more families. That's almost 10% more than what we currently have, in my opinion. So those are just follow-up questions on that, and I know I'm not going to get all the answers today, but I was curious to know what's being presented and to see what's available in the public domain, so I can have that conversation with some of my clients who are interested in continuing to invest in the village. Thank you.
So it's just for a roundabout answer, and the corporate officer can follow me along. So down Hillside, right, we have that development going ahead. That's gonna be like 30-40 units. Then hopefully the Encore keeps going, 37 units. Whitfield Landing has maybe room for another 60. These are just rough numbers. You could, if you want to contact the corporate officer, can give you more rough numbers. And there's down a couple streets, there's Yeah, so there's a few other independent buildings going on. There's roughly like maybe 100.
Late industry.
Yeah, so there's roughly maybe about 100, you know, in the planning stage. And being built currently, so we're actually not doing too bad.
Oh, those are the things that, the investors look at, okay, what's the stability in terms of the long-term planning and the strategic vision of the council, okay? There's a shortage of 100 over next 5 years, housing we already experiencing, doesn't get built even in 2 year time frame. We talk about multifamily projects, it's like 3 years, nobody wants to even touch before 3 years now, I mean, in Kamloops, they just leased out a space to a short-term housing solution for 24 months or 30 months. So, I mean, just because the builder is not available to build, so, I mean, those challenges has not gone away. So they will, logistics, that we call them, will continue to exist. But as long as we understand where we are and how far we need to go, I mean, obviously, these are some of those are moving targets, but it allows us to keep working towards those. I mean, obviously, housing is, no municipalities is building the housing as far as I understand, right? So it's either the partners or the marketplace, right? So.
And then, so Bill 44 is allowed for, is it called carriage houses, Sean? Is that the name for
Yeah.
a second unit on residential? Is it carriage homes or? It's a second unit.
Yeah, just it's called a secondary dwelling unit, and there's a number of terms that
Yeah.
are sort of interchangeable. And carriage home is one of them,
And that's approximately 900 in Chase potential. I think the number was there's about 900.
Yeah, there are some programs, even government offering $40,000 for people to put secondary suite, but obviously those building has to be designed for those things, right? And a lot of, I know Chase is mostly sitting on ranchers. And they are not necessarily suitable for building code perspective to give the permission to that, so that's another challenge. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. And any other questions you have, please contact our corporate officer and
Yeah, sure.
myself or anybody would. As we
Yeah,
do.
that's perfect, it's a,
Yeah.
for me, good way to come and say hello, and
Yeah.
get to be part of this. Journey.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say? Anybody on Zoom have anything to comment on? Staff, is there there's nobody? Nobody?
No.
Okay. So with that, we will now go in cameras. We need a recommendation there, Councillor Torban.
I'll move that council recess to an in-camera meeting pursuant to section 90 sub 1 sub E. The acquisition, disposition, and expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality.
Seconded, Councillor Coniff. All in favor? Carried. We will now go in camera. Thanks for everybody who came.